Hello everyone, my name is Lowko, and it is time for another best of 5 series of professional StarCraft 2. And what I got for you today is a Zerg versus Protoss. Spawning here in game number 1 on Blackpink Alley and playing with the blue Protoss probes. He is from South Korea and he goes by the nickname of Hero. And his opponent spawning in the opposite corner, of course, and playing with the red Zerg drones, also from South Korea. He goes by the nickname of Impact. Now, both of these guys, of course, are very good at what they do. I mean, Hero in particular, one of the most accomplished Protoss players of all time. He's won essentially everything there is to win in StarCraft 2. And of course, up to this day as well, he is one of the most, dominating Protosses. He's very, very good at what he does. And I think he's going to go ahead and do so throughout 2018 as well, because he doesn't show any signs of slowing down just yet. Now, Impact, he's a bit of a... It's always kind of interesting to talk about Impact. He really likes playing super aggressively. He's always taking games off of the best players on the planet. And he's actually currently also qualified for the GSL Code S. But he hasn't quite found that break just yet. I'm always really impressed by the way that he's playing the game. I quite like watching the hyper-aggressive Zerg styles. But he's perfectly capable of playing that macro-focused style as well. And that's what makes him so very scary. He is not afraid to go ahead and play hyper-aggressive, like do, for example, like a Roach Ravager Ling all in. He might even go ahead and do something like that here in game number 1 as well. But he is also capable of following it up with a very powerful macro game. Now, both of these guys are, like I mentioned, qualified for the GSL Code S. They will actually be playing, I believe, in like a week or two or so in the round of 32. Of course, there's 32 players still in that tournament, or I guess a couple of them have already, obviously fallen off since the first groups have indeed been played at this point. But they are indeed qualified for the highest level tournament in all of StarCraft 2, the first premier one in 2018, and one of the first real, premier tournaments in, the new multiplayer patch of StarCraft 2 as well. So I'm curious to see how the strategies will develop. But so far, I gotta say, it seems like for both Protoss and Zerg, there are quite a lot of options. And add to that as well the fact that, apparently, by the way, Hero is going to be opening up with a Stargate. But add to that the fact as well that Blizzard is still continuously fine-tuning a lot of the settings. For example, very soon, we will be seeing a nerf to the Hydralisk just because it seems a little bit too strong in timing attacks. Players are still forced to develop, and both of these players are very good at exactly that. They are very good at adjusting on the fly, and they will be able to figure out new strategies that will favor their race or maybe their opponents, so they can go ahead and figure out counters to that as well. Regardless, though, so far actually, oh, interesting. I was gonna say, we see a Stargate-based opener right here from the Protoss, but in the meantime, on the other side of the map, Impact is already setting up a Baneling nest, and the Shade of the Adept, of course, is gonna try and get into the main base. Protoss does decide to not commit there, because Zerglings were already going for the wraparound, and actually Impact is opening up this very first game of this series very explosively. I think he may just be going for... Yeah, I think he may just very well be going just for a good old Baneling bust. This is something that we saw years ago in StarCraft 2. It's never quite left, but... for example, if Hero is not going to be closing off this front wall here, that means that he's going to be in a world of hurt. And right now, Hero is also opening up with that Phoenix first. That means that the Zerglings are going to be very, very potent indeed. Now, these Adepts will be able to shade away, but there is no denying that this is going to be a very scary push. Not an Oracle-based opener like we have seen Protoss players do for a very long time. Instead, Protoss is going to open up with those Phoenixes, and while they are very strong, it does mean that there are going to be oh man, there's not going to be a whole lot of units available. Look at that, right? There's a couple of Phoenixes, but they're not going to be able to kill this many Zerglings. Now, the Phoenixes will figure out about the Banelings that are morphing in, but I think we are indeed getting started with a very explosive first game in this best of 5 series. Here we go. Banelings immediately pushing forward, trying to go after that wall. They will be able to knock that down very rapidly. The Shade of the Adepts will also go off, but just barely will indeed get killed. Now, the Phoenixes are going to try and make themselves useful, lift up a few of these Banes, but already probes are falling left and right. Oracles just about to finish up as well. Of course, they are capable of killing about 10 or so Zerglings each with relative ease, but these Banelings and Zerglings are going to go to town. Baneling Cocoons, of course, very powerful. The connections are wow, okay. Yeah, the connections right there were unreal, and all of a sudden 32 probes ended up falling, and that means that Impact in game number 1 manages to get started with a very explosive victory. Well, I have to be honest, I did not quite expect that. Bailing busts are one of these strategies that, you know, they're easy to execute, but they're also pretty easy to hold. I mean, for the longest time, Protoss, of course, would open up with, for example, sentries and zealots would just simply be able to ward away any kind of banelings because of the force fields and whatnot. And then, of course, Protoss has had photon overcharge for quite a long time as well. They were able to use that mothership core to defend against a lot of the Zerg aggression. But still, every once in a while, a Zerg would go ahead and pull off a cheese like that. Now, maybe Impact has been playing against Hero quite a bit, for example, on the ladder, but it may also be the case in other online tournaments. Just maybe he knows that Hero really likes to go ahead and open up with Phoenixes, and I've actually personally noticed this as well recently in my ladder games. Whenever I do play with the Zerg pieces, of course I've been playing a ton of random recently, but regardless, whenever I do open up with the Zerg pieces and I'm up against the Protoss, a lot of Protosses have been favoring that Phoenix based playstyle. And I guess if your opponent, right, is first off not going to complete that wall, they're only going to be going for 2 adepts straight into the Stargate, and obviously without photon overcharge or anything else to defend, I guess we may very well be swooping back around to the point where bailing busts are going to be viable. It's kind of funny how the meta in StarCraft 2 works, right? Players figure out how to, like, fast expand, right? And there's sort of like this gentleman's agreement where the Zerg is going to make the assumption that the natural of the Protoss is going to be taken, so the Zerg can go ahead and just simply take that third, oftentimes before they even scout that the natural is going to be confirmed, right? It's more or less like a gentleman's agreement, because technically speaking, Hero could always go ahead and just open up with a 4-gate, but because 4-gate is so easy to hold these days, players just sort of make these assumptions, and every once in a while, though, the meta will go back to strategies that are hyper-aggressive and can just simply work out, right? Like in game number 1, that was a very greedy opener by Protoss. Most of the time, he's going to be able to get away with it, but not in this particular situation. And that does allow Impact to lead this series right now with a 1-0 advantage. Here we go. Now, Impact is indeed going to be able to figure out exactly what it is he's going up against. He will confirm that there is a Nexus going down right now. 2 Queens already on that production tab as well, and Impact will shortly be able to start up that Zergling speed upgrade. Maybe he's even going to be trying to get a 3rd base up already as well. More than likely would be the case at this point in the game, just because 3rd bases are the gold standard for Zerg, just because of that larva production. But in the meantime, apparently Hero is not going to be faced here. He is once again opening up with that very quick Stargate-based build. He's also going to be going for the Chrono Boost right there on the Adept. 2nd one immediately queued up, and the 3rd actually, or I guess this would be the very first one, is already moving across the map. It will be able to shade past that Queen with ease. Will indeed be able to get in there. Confirms that there is not quite a 3rd base taken just yet for the Zerg player, so Protoss does have to be a little bit careful. He's probably just going to use the shade here to try and confirm what is going on right here in the main base of the Zerg. Not quite seeing a Bailing Nest or, for example, a Roach Warren this time around, so I wouldn't be surprised if Impact is going to shortly try to expand, but there's actually already a handful of adepts right now. They're going to be able to shade around very easily, and Impact decides to skip out Metabolic Boost. He actually just went straight into a lair. Wow, okay, that is very aggressive here by the Zerg player. No link speed upgrade. He does have the minerals and gas for it. Instead, he's just going to go for the Spore Crawlers. He's got himself 4 Queens and a handful of slow links. He may just very well be able to go for like a Roach-based push. Look at that. Evo Chamber and Roach Warren already going down. At the same time, though, 2 more Adepts, or I guess the first 2 Adepts, rather, are moving across the map once more. Oracle now also joining in this party, but not seeing that 3rd base of the Zerg is a pretty big tell. Hero at this point knows exactly that there is going to be a timing attack headed his way in likely just a couple of minutes. Here we go, though. Adepts also committing now. There we go. Yeah, they're going to be able to commit into that main base. The drones will be pulled off the line, and of course it takes 2 drones to one-shot, or 2 Adepts rather, to one-shot these workers. And while eventually the Queens are going to be able to, you know, deflect the ones in the main, immediately the shade was activated, and these links are going to try and deal the damage, and link speed is not available. Link speed is not available. 7 drones end up dying. That could have been way worse, but that definitely was still a pretty menacing amount of damage. Impact, in the meantime, though, on the other side of the map, did confirm that there was no super quick third Nexus going up for his opponent. Still, we see the Twilight Council as well as the Forge coming in right now. Hero doesn't really need to get a third base either if he knows he's going up against a 2-base Zerg. Lair is done, though. It's going to start up the Glio Reconstitution upgrade, but more and more... Hey, Mr. Shark, what's up? More and more of these drones end up dying. I'm sorry, guys. You have to say hello to Mr. Shark. He's gone now. Oh, no, here he is. There we go. He's just floating up above, trying to figure out what's going on. I'm actually quite interested, though. So this is going to be a roach speed +1 attack timing push from the Zerg player. But Protoss, I mean, Protoss is just simply delaying that third base a bunch. This is the absolute latest that a third base will usually go down for a Protoss player. But these Adepts, right? And these Oracles are dealing a lot of damage. 14 workers. There we go. Stasis Ward going down in the back of that natural mineral line. Once again, the shade forward. Only a single roach right now on the production tab. I think this is game over. Right? I mean, 4 more will go down. 5 right there. He's going to be able to shade again if he wants to. Nice target firing right there by the Queens. We'll be able to get rid of some of these units. But at the same time, right, the damage here is unreal already. Zerg is just simply losing drones left and right. And Protoss is barely even committing to any of this aggression. Zerg is completely scouted, right? Zerg is not going to be able to go for this timing attack because Protoss will just easily hold it. Adepts are not done just yet, though. 10 additional drones there. Beautiful play here by the Protoss, just simply reading his opponent like a book. 24 workers. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why you don't skip Zerging speed. Zerging speed is too good of an upgrade, okay? I mean, you can, technically speaking, skip it if you really want to, but it is a bit of a risk. Now, there are a whole lot of Oracles available. This is the way to play against this if you are the Protoss player. Just simply focus on a handful of Adepts. Transition towards whatever it is you want in the meantime at home. There's actually still no third base up, by the way, for Hero. I think that he's going to try and just simply do another big timing attack. Blink is just about to finish. +1 missile, or rather +1 ground weapon upgrades right here for Protoss is also going to finish. These Protoss units are smelling blood, and they want to close this game out right here, right now. Impact sees the push coming in, and he decides to just simply GG out. Alrighty, so the next match is gonna be on a bit of an interesting map. Of course, we are on Battle on the Boardwalk. They've actually decided that in the GSL, they're not gonna be playing this map. I don't believe it's in the map pool. Instead, they've added another map that is not quite available on the ladder just yet. Although usually, whenever the GSL does something like that, Blizzard will be looking at that map and they may end up replacing it. But I'll be honest, I quite like watching games on this map, right? Like, Battle on the Boardwalk is one of those maps that I personally don't really like playing on as much, but I love casting games on it because it's so different, right? With that gold base that's just accessible so early on into the match, and then of course the way that players expand and the way that the rush distance is rather short in between the natural spawn locations, it's actually pretty cool. It's actually pretty cool, but to play it, it can be a little bit tiresome as well. But it's a lot of fun to see strategies develop on a map like this because it's quite a bit different. But in my own current ladder games, I'll be honest with you, I've got it downvoted. I've got it vetoed. I don't want to play it. I don't want to play it. But casting games on it is a lot of fun. Now, Impact, I don't think he's going to skip Zerging speed anymore in this series. I mean, Hero just simply knew exactly what to do, right? That was absolutely brilliant play there by the Protoss player. He just scouted that there was no link speed at the supposed time that it was supposed to come out in. He wanted to probably go for a third base, and then he saw, hey, wait a second. There's no metabolic boost on these links. I can just go ahead and, you know, what if I go for a push, right? Make a couple of Adepts. Maybe make an additional Oracle, more so than I normally play. I also gotta say that I really like the way that Hero decided to go for that Oracle base play, rather than immediately jumping towards the Phoenix. Usually you will be going for at least 1 or 2 Oracles first, and I guess he is forced to adjust against the player of the likes of Impact. I wonder what Impact is going to do, though, in this particular match here. I mean, this is a bit of an odd map. We do see Hero now taking that gold expansion here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, and there's no denying that it's going to be very difficult for the Zerg to try and deal with this. Every once in a while, we do see Zerg players trying to drop off Zerglings on this high ground, and then they're going to try and just simply, you know, deal some damage to that Nexus. But, you know, obviously, shield batteries are very good. Adepts are very good at cleaning up early game Zerglings as well. But this time around, we do indeed see that link speed coming in, as well as a very quick third hatchery here from the Zerg player. So very standard play so far. Once again, that Stargate based opener for Hero. Zergling will be able to confirm exactly what it is that's going on in this particular match, immediately making a beeline for that expansion. He needs to confirm whether or not the Protoss took that base, and he will be able to figure that out in just a little bit. Scouting probe right there for the Protoss player. I think, yeah, indeed, it did confirm that there were 3 bases available. So, once again, right, a pretty standard opener here for the Protoss player. Zerg, though, once again, transitioning towards a lot of Zerglings. I was wondering why these Overlords were grouping up together. That is not something you see at this level of play, right? Players are very careful with their positioning of these Overlords, and I noticed that they were sort of grouping up together. I guess we figured out why that is. I actually really like this move as well from Impact. Instead of just simply dropping off over here, he's going to be dropping off in between this attack path. Although a single Zealot will be able to, you know, stop this business in just a little bit. The Links are going to be dropped off, and this is quite a few already at this point in the game. At the same time, a massive amount of Links also trying to push in the front. A nice response there by Hero. Reading what's going on, immediately did complete that wall off. A single Oracle will be able to ward away these Links, but at the same time, there's still a lot of Links here in the natural expansion of the Protoss player as well. Beautiful positioning though. That shield battery will finish up, and apparently that's enough to keep this Adept alive for a little while longer. Oracle is now, however, out of energy, and that means that Hero is going to be forced to deal with a lot of Zerglings inside of his main base. Of course, there's still a lot of ways here to transition as well for the Zerg, but so far it seems to be that it's just simply a ton more Links on that production tab. A single Adept now also holding that wall, but only really 2 Zerglings managed to break through that frontal wall here. More and more shield batteries are coming up, and I gotta say, this is really solid defensive play here by the Protoss player. That Zealot will definitely be able to hold as well, and I think that Hero has done it. That was really solidly defended. Really no critical damage done whatsoever, and Hero is currently at 29 workers versus only 17 drones. So while Zerg is desperately going to try and continue onwards with this aggression, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think you want to drop off these Links. Speaking of which, though, he may very well be forced in just a little bit. The Stargate indeed now available, and of course now also producing Phoenixes. Really quite like that move. Although now Protoss is once again forced to split off some of these units, because the Links are trying to break through. Actually, a whole lot of them this time around do manage to break into this base. The Cybernetics Core will just barely not go down at like 10 HP, although apparently Zerg is going to try and target for it. 6 HP, it's not enough. That Cyber Core will live for another little, oh my god, 2 HP. Are you kidding me? That's a 2 HP cybernetic score. That would have been rather annoying, actually, for the Protoss player to deal with. Now, Warp Gates did finish up, although, did Hero just actually kill it himself? Yep, he just finished that off himself. He figured that it was probably going to fall anyway, so he didn't quite want to deal with that anymore. But in the meantime, though, while this is all going on, right, and Zerg is trying to get the value out of all of these Links that are left over, he's already adding on a ton of drones once again as well. So while Hero was significantly ahead in economy just, you know, a little bit ago, Zerg actually did decide to start droning up at a sufficient time as well. I mean, he did force a lot of defenses here out of the Protoss player. There's still, of course, no Nexus here on the low ground. And while there are now 3 Oracles available at this point in the game for the Protoss, they are nice and they're going to be quite helpful, but I think Zerg will be able to deflect that just fine. Now, this one Phoenix, though, is actually hurting quite a bit. It's cleaning up Overlord after Overlord. There we go. Already a single supply block has been hit now by the Zerg player. And there we go. Once again, right? That number went down into the red digits. 4 Oracles. That actually deals a lot of damage. Oracles are rather scary. Yeah, look at that. They're going to be able to, of course, just deal with these queens in just a matter of seconds. A single Spore Crawler is going to make a bit of a difference. Nice target firing right there on these units. But 6 drones at exchange for a single Oracle that was already low in HP. I think that is a trade that Hero will take any day of the week, because these are units that will fall off over the course of this game. That Phoenix, of course, not done just yet. It's just simply patrolling all around the map, trying to figure out if there are any stray Overlords. More and more Queens now coming in, as well as a handful of Zerglings. But in the meantime, the Protoss has already taken that 3rd Nexus here on the low ground. So, I mean, while we do see this very aggressive opener from the Zerg, I have to say, though, Hero is dealing with that very nicely. Look at that building placement as well, right? That pylon may look inefficient, and maybe he's not going to optimally mine from this assimilator right now, but this is a perfect position. And actually, apparently, a couple more drones ended up going down there because of these Oracles. But this does put him in a perfect position to just simply wall off this area of the map and defend with minimal amounts of units. Right? The mining is maybe a little bit obstructed, but it's nothing too scary. Now, there's a handful of Zerglings available as well for the Zerg player. He's going to try and make some value out of this. Look at this wall, by the way. This is what my walls look like whenever I play Protoss. I wall with like 16 pylons right there. The thing is, though, Zerg is not really going to be able to abuse that anymore at this point in the game, because Protoss has already taken control of that low ground. And interestingly enough, right, a couple of links will be able to sneak by the way. I think they were dropped off with this Overlord over there. Interestingly enough, Hero is now transitioning towards Mass Oracle. This is something that we saw a lot pre-patch. After 4.0, it wasn't really something that we would see anymore at all. The thing about Oracles is that if you have enough of them, they just sort of kill everything. Oracles at this point, once again, do have spell damage, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't for a little while. They just had regular damage output. But they do have spell damage again, if I'm not mistaken, which would mean that they are just simply going to ignore any kind of armor that units have. So, for example, a unit like a Zergling will take just as much damage as an Ultralisk, fully upgraded, just because, you know, it's spell damage and they don't really care so much about that. That does mean they're going to be able to deal with buildings and whatnot very easily as well. But look at the damage output, right? These are the biggest glass cannons in the game. Oracles are fast, they're very mobile, they deal a ton of damage, but if you look at them twice, they are also dead. Right? So you have to micro this very carefully. Like, the longer you keep this alive, the better it's going to be. Beautiful little play there, actually, as well, by Hero, trying to set up a single one of these stasis wards. But while a ton of Zerglings are now forced here by the Protoss player, right? He's just simply trying to force this Zerg to make a ton of army. Hero is just continuously building up more and more forces. And I actually like this a lot. Look at that. He's now transitioning towards that fleet beacon. So if he wants to, he could go ahead and start making Tempest, but more than likely, he's gonna be going up to those carriers. Now, fun fact about carriers, they take about 6.5 years to build each. It takes a very long time. It's not quite that long, okay? I realize that, but there's no denying that it takes an extended period of time to try and deal with those units. But once you manage to max out, right? And actually, this may just barely be confirmed. There we go. Impact does know what it is he's going up against. Once he figured this out, yeah, he's immediately going to be going into a heavy drone production phase. He probably is going to need at least about 80 workers to effectively deal with this. So while there is continued aggression on every side of the map, once again, a single stasis ward going down, Zerglings did manage to force that council on the 4th Nexus as well. Hero is slowly building up a very menacing force. A very scary army indeed. Now, 12 additional drones just about to come out, right? Impact realized what it was he was going up against, and he immediately builds up to 80 workers. I really do like that decision making here from the Zerg player. You have to be careful, though. You can't overdo it against someone of the likes of Hero. If Hero sees that you're just simply playing a little bit too greedy, he's gonna come in with a big push. Hive now coming in as well, but continuous build up right here of these carriers. And I think that we all know the strength of carriers, both Protoss and Zerg players alike, and Terran players as well. If there's enough carriers and enough Stargate units, the Golden Armada, or I guess with this skin, it's probably more like the Death Fleet. They essentially kill everything. Right? Zerg does have ways of dealing with that right now. Apparently, the unit of choice here for Impact is going to be the Infestor. He's now also going for Banelings as well as +2 melee upgrades. He's actually going to go for a bit of a push here towards these Zealots. And this is more or less like a mineral dump. There's a couple of Adepts in here as well, but this can still be a little bit scary. These Oracles still just roaming the map, trying to see whatever damage they can. Picking off oh my god, picking off an Infestor or 2, maybe even 3, is a big deal. That's a very big deal. At the same time, though, the Banelings managed to indeed connect with a lot of these units. There's also now a few links trying to roam into that main base. Fort Nexus will once again get forced to get cancelled here. Yeah, there's no way that will keep alive. There we go. Council will get forced. Link's now also moving into that natural. And Impact has actually successfully managed to lower his opponent's worker count to only 45. Only 45. He's just now adding on 12 drones. Oh, that's such a greedy move here. 89 workers for the Zerg player. Usually, you do really not want to go over like 80. 80 is kind of where you want to cut it off. And Protoss knows right now he's in a world of hurt, but he still has a massive army as well. The question is, did Zerg overextend? He's effectively doubling his opponent's economy right now. But Double Spire is only just now in production. There are a lot of queens available, a single spore there, as well as a handful of these infestors. But keep in mind, right, a few of these infestors ended up getting picked off very, very easily. Queens are desperately trying to deal with these, with all of these interceptors, but they're being rebuilt almost immediately. Hydralisks are now also coming out in big numbers, and they're also trying to do whatever they can, but these oracles are still available. They're waiting for the opportunity to just simply swoop forward and pick off all of these units. And here we go. The spell damage does get activated once again. Slowly but surely, every single last of these Zerg units gets picked off, and while a couple of units are now indeed trying to deal some damage on the other side of the map as well, I think that while Impact played a brilliant game here, he went a little bit too greedy. He cleaned up so much of his opponent's economy, right? And then he added on 12 additional workers when he was already at like 78 or something like that. That is a very greedy move, and I don't think it's enough, right? That is such a disappointing way to go out. Now, if he manages to somehow some way hold on, and actually it's not looking all too terrible just yet here for the Zerg player, but if he manages to some way hold on and like get a minute or so of breathing room, he's gonna be able to absolutely shred everything that the Protoss player wants to throw at him. But now that the mothership is available as well, and another carrier gets added to the mix, I think that Zerg is in a world of hurt. Stasis wards now even being added on as well, and I think that Impact can't quite believe it either, as Hero manages to pick up a game that was very heavily in favor there of the Zerg. But Zerg just simply went a little bit too greedy. Hero decided to just simply box all of his units together and go for a last-ditch push, and there's no denying that Skytos is a very, very powerful opponent. So this match right here on Catalyst LE will be match point for the Protoss. He has a chance of closing this game out right here, right now. I can't help but feel a little bit bad though for Impact in that previous game, right? I mean, he did a tremendous job just simply containing his opponent, never allowing that fourth base, heavily harassing, and while his initial early game pressure really didn't do a whole lot, at some point he just managed to, you know, get such a big lead when he killed all of those probes and he denied that fourth base over and over again. But then, you know, Protoss just simply had a lot of units made. He was playing a very turtly defensive style, and, you know, at some point in the game, there's just simply so many carriers available that Protoss can just try and push across the map and apparently win the game. The Zerg in me definitely did hurt a little bit right there, but there's no denying that Impact, those 12 workers, if those were 12 Hydralisks or 12 Corruptors or, heck, even 12 Queens, maybe even 24 Zerglings, right? To go for the counterattack once again and keep those carriers at home for just a little while longer, he probably would have been fine. What about, like, 12 Spore Crawlers, right? 12 Spore Crawlers would have easily stopped that. Instead, he decided to go for 12 additional workers, and it's just a little bit too greedy there. And Protoss ends up winning that game after playing a very solid defensive style as well. And that leads us to game number 4. Hero can potentially win this game right here, right now. Although, so far, he hasn't really been mixing it up very much just yet. He's just simply trying to deny that expansion from going up here continuously, forcing that spawning pool first from Impact in pretty much every single match so far. Ooh, he's actually trying to... Is he going to try and sneak a probe into the main base? I think he may. I think he may just very well hang out in that corner. Try and see if he can potentially get a little bit more value. He's a little bit indecisive right there on where he wants to put that single unit. Although him... What? No way! Impact, you're such a monster. How did you even realize that there's a chance that that can... Well, I guess it's always a chance, right? But that single probe is just scurrying back and forth, trying to stay alive. And I think he will be able to do so successfully. Anyway, Hero so far not really deviating from plan though. Just every single time going for a couple of adepts, right? I mean, he's gone for a bit of a strategic change, of course, with that Stargate, and then in the initial game, on the very first game, he decided to go for the Phoenix, and a little bit later, he's been playing Oracle heavy instead. But for the most part, he's going for a pretty similar early game strategy, and that is to just simply try and play defensive, get a couple of adepts out to potentially deal some damage, but, you know, eventually settle on that third base and try and see if he can just deal the damage. He's been doing so very successfully. Now in game 1, of course, he noticed that he could just close out the game if he went for a lot of gateway units instead, and he ended up doing exactly that. But here we go. Friendly little probe will be able to go back in, and this is not just a random timing here for the probe to check behind that mineral line. Instead, it's a moment where normally a baneling nest or, for example, a roach warren would come out. Now, apparently, though, Impact in this particular game is not really playing nearly as aggressive as he was in the previous couple. Instead, he's just simply going to go ahead and play the good old Zerg macro style. At the very least, that's what I'm seeing from him right now. He's going to be able to make a couple of Zerglings, and he will need them against these first 2 Adepts as well. And Hero has been playing these pretty much every single time so far, but at the same time, on the other side of the map, we do indeed see that single Oracle coming out, and also the transition towards a Phoenix. So Hero is still going to try and get these units out, following it up with 2 additional gateways as well. We'll have to keep an eye out on whether or not the Protoss is going to go for a quick 3rd Nexus as well. So far, just simply holding on with a very minimal amount of units. There we go. 2 Adepts will be able to pick that off once again. Links are swooping in, and Hero cancels the Shade just barely in the nick of time. Look at this, by the way. Hero is getting a lot of value out of every individual unit. He's going to cancel this last second. Look at it. Okay, he's not. Of course. I say that, and immediately he decides to not go ahead and do so. That is the caster curse right there, although this was probably just a planned maneuver. He's been doing that every single time, though. He just simply, cancels at the very last second to try and keep these units alive. Look at that control. Seriously, though. Just simply getting so much value out of each and every one of these units. And while eventually they do end up falling, it's not without bringing a couple of drones with them and then also a handful of Zerglings. It's so typical, though. Did you see that caster curse right there? Right? I've seen him cancel those 2 Shades in the nick of time, like 20 times during this series. And then the one time that I pointed out, Hero just knows that I was going to mention it, and he decides to, he decides to just simply let it finish this time around. And while he's still got a lot of value there, he still kept the Shades, or the Adepts alive for a little while longer. Ooh, that's a vulnerability right over there. Look at that. These Adepts will be able to reinforce a single one there at the front as well. And while the Lynx managed to kill it, the 3rd base was delayed a little bit. We are indeed setting up for a nice little macro game. Once again, though, I can't help but wonder how Impact is going to play against one of the very best macro Protosses in the world. Hero is probably going to be the most menacing macro Protoss in the world. Yes, we've seen him play a lot of, timing attack focus builds so far. But he is very scary when it comes to the late game. I mean, even when your opponent is perfectly defended, which so far Impact has been, right? He's been going for the Spore Crawlers. He hasn't been cutting Metabolic Boost. He hasn't been cutting a lot of Zerglings. He still gets 7 worker kills. An average Protoss would have gotten like 0. Probably 0. Instead, somehow, some way, Hero still managed to sneak out a handful of kills there. And he's also splitting up the units just brilliantly here. Look at that, right? 3 and 3, just simply completely countering whatever it is the Zerg is going to try and throw at him. And at this point, right, with this gateway explosion coming in and the transition towards the Templar Archives, I think that Hero might even be going for a bit of a push. Look at that. We now see the Glaives upgrade as well as +1 ground weapon upgrades finishing up for the Protoss player. He's definitely going to be able to go for a push here with Resonating Glaives. This Overseer is desperately trying to scout out what's going on. Zerglings now confirmed that the 3rd Nexus indeed is not cancelled. It will be able to finish up right here. That single shield battery will be forced for now. But Zerg really doesn't know exactly what it is he is going up against. The single Changeling, though, can be a little bit of a pain. A Probe is going to try and deny that. But at the same time, the Shades are already moving across the map. Lurkerdan is now being started up, and Zerg is going to transition towards that Hydraling Bane style. But the question is it going to be in time? There's already so many units. Look at that rapid fire. Bam, 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 bam. All of a sudden, all of these Adepts are joining the battlefield. They have Resonating Glaives. They have +1 attack. And while a handful of Zerglings are indeed on the other side of the map, the Adepts are committing to this engagement. Oracle also just simply still defending. And while there are now Banelings available, right? Protoss just has such a scary amount of units that I think it's enough to even like kill a base. Right? The attack speed upgrade is insanely helpful. Once again, just simply shading forward. There is already a follow-up with Psionic Storm as well. Couple of the adepts now forcing to shade onwards. They're going to be sacrificed to eat as many of these baneling hits as possible. But the third base is gone now. Hero finished up his own. Psionic Storm is about a third or so of the way done right now. We see that Archon Immortal transition with Psionic Storm and a ton of adepts. I think that Hero is looking very strong and steady in this game so far. Look at that. He's now simply just going to transition towards the Zealot. Doesn't have to charge upgrade just yet, but he will be able to start that up right now. And while a couple of Lings are trying to make the most out of this scenario, I think that Hero is looking strong. Hero is looking strong. This is like a page out of the Protoss textbook on how to play this matchup. Very, very well done so far. Not really missing a beat at any point during this game. Right? Storm is done right now. Lurkers are going to be able to come in as well, but Impact doesn't have a big economy anymore. As a matter of fact, there haven't even been that many worker kills, interestingly enough, but... as a matter of fact, Hero is now significantly ahead with about 20 supply when it comes to the total supply counts. And at this point in the game, usually it's the Zerg that's got that advantage just because of the fact that Protoss takes a little bit longer to build up. Now, a couple of Banelings are going to try and roll forward. Zerg is going to be able to probably pick up a couple of kills. There we go, 3 kills and as well as a single pylon. I guess that's all fine and dandy, but Revelation is still available. These oracles were kept alive from earlier. They're actually very important. There we go. Single Revelation does go down. That will prevent these lurkers from just simply going on the ground. Zealot's now forced across the map as well, because apparently Hero is happy with the units that he's got over here, just simply using this small army to deflect whatever it is that the Zerg player wants to throw at him. A single Warp Prism now also flying across the map, and Lynx once again sneaking by. Hero never actually quite fixed that walling issue that he was having earlier. But these Zealots are pretty scary. Charge is just about to finish up. They're going to be able to, at the very least, eat a couple of these Baneling hits and also get rid of a couple of the drones. Lynx now in the main base. They will be deflected, but the majority of the Protoss army is now moving across the map. The War Prism picked up these Zealots here on the left-hand side of the map, and while Protoss once again decides to retreat and play it very safe, the army of the Protoss player Hero is growing. Right? Already... there's a very scary amount of units. Now, by no stretch of the imagination, though, is Zerg out of this just yet. Zerg is essentially set up with a bit of an all-in kind of scenario. He's trying to, add on a couple of drones here and there. But he's got a very menacing army that's Lingbane Hydra Lurker. And Lingbane Hydra Lurker is perfectly capable of killing whatever. Right? For example, if these High Templar end up dying to a couple of Banelings, Zerg is A-okay and totally back into the race. If these Immortals get surrounded together with the Archons by a bunch of Zerglings, Zerg is once again way back in the race. If Protoss steps 2 steps too far forward, right, and these Lurkers are capable of getting a solid engagement, they will totally be back in the race once again as well. Now, apparently these Zealots are being a bit of a nuisance. This is just to buy some time. Hero is just simply pushing forward with that army supply, but the thing is, I've seen Hero play probably about 100 games at this point in StarCraft 2, and the man doesn't really miss, like, force fields. He doesn't really miss any kind of these engagements. And while he is now indeed forcing the Zerg a little bit closer, right? Just trying to make sure that the Zerg goes for an all-in. He's been playing defensive. He's not pushing across the map. But here we go. This is a very important engagement. Storm going down. These Banelings getting picked up absolutely beautifully. Lurkers burrowed in the back. They're going to be able to pick up one of these Archons for essentially free. A single one of the Immortals is now also running very low. A massive revelation there, though, indeed will confirm that the rest of the army is primarily focused around Lurkers, and Hero will be able to just simply push through that with those Archons and Immortals. Beautiful storms there, right there. I mean, that last game, this game right here on Catalyst, essentially, other than like that little wall issue in the natural, right? That was essentially perfect play there by the Protoss player in blue. Not really missing a beat whatsoever, cleaning up his opponent, and because of that, he ends up obtaining the victory in a 3-1 manner in this best of 5 series. Now, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. Other than that, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And a special shout out to the Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. But I will see you all in the next one.